Good afternoon and welcome to the final Hibs Observer Tactical Analysis show of the 2024-25 season. I'm Liam Bryce, joined by Craig Nisbet to look back at Hibs 2, Rangers 2 at Easter Road. An entertaining final game of the season. Hibs twice coming from behind to take a point. Goals from Kieran Bowie and Martin Boyle. His 99th for Hibs, and he obviously had that chance to make it 100, which would have been a lovely way to round off the season, but it wasn't to be. Craig, how are you? How are you getting on?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. I thought that game was a great way to finish the season. It sort of had everything, sort of shades of the earlier parts of the season where we were gifting goals away, a bit of controversy, and then just digging deep sort of second half performance, and I think it had the lot, to be fair, to take in that final game.
It was almost a nice kind of snapshot of various, not a snapshot of the whole season, but maybe a snapshot of various parts of the season. Some of them good, as you say, some of them not so good. But before we get started, folks, just a quick word and a final word this season for our sponsor. The Hibs Observer is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. So start your search today. So let's get in a lot to cover because, as we said, it was a very eventful afternoon at Easter Road. Just starting as always, we'll look at the expected goals race chart across the game. Hibs giving away quite a lot on the day, not creating a terribly high amount themselves, but taking their chances mostly when they came along. I mean, this doesn't particularly surprise me too much because I felt like Rangers were a wee bit wasteful. And if they'd been a bit more clinical, then I'm not sure Hibs would have taken a point from this game. But as you can see, 2.37 for Rangers, 0.99 for Hibs kind of tells you the sort of the weighting of the chances throughout the game. But I mean, I suppose it's all about actually putting those chances away. Does this chime with what you saw at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I actually was sort of quite impressed with Rangers, to be fair. I sort of thought coming into the game there would maybe be an element of, it was probably going to be Barry Ferguson's last game, and he's certainly not pulled any punches about the players and things like that. So I was quite surprised how motivated they were, and they really did go quite gung-ho, which we'll kind of talk about later on with their lineup and the way they played. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me, in the second half especially, they were creating. I thought Smith made some brilliant saves. We made some really, really key blocks, and Rangers did create a lot of chance. I would say that, we were always close to them and getting bodies in there and getting them off balance with strikes and things like that. But it doesn't surprise me that they far outweighed us on the XG. And yeah, 80th minute onwards, we were sitting in, hopefully just maybe looking for that counter attack, which we nearly got there. I know that won't show up on the final stats because it wasn't really a shot, but we almost pinched it at the very, very end. But yeah, no real surprises.
Yeah, as I say, it's kind of like, you can see the kind of quality of the chances. There was maybe a lot of kind of half chances for Rangers throughout the game. Obviously, the first one was a wee bit of a gift from Hibs' perspective, and then the second one coming from a set piece. First one scored by Cyril Dessers, and then Nicholas Raskin getting the second. But we'll move on and we'll actually take a look at the game in depth. And here we go, straight on to that first Rangers goal. I mean, it was a strange one because everything just seemed to kind of slow down when the header came back in. I feel like everybody maybe just assumed that Dessers had gone offside, but obviously they would have checked it, and it was just it kind of killed the atmosphere a wee bit for a while. Things are a wee bit flat after that, and I think it wasn't a great goal from Hibs' perspective, was it?
No, it's a weird one. I mean, it's really, as you can see, it's only a minute and 40 and odd into the game, and it's quite, and it's not like a really complicated passing. It's not like we're really trying to play out from the back here. It's Rocky rolling it into Smith and clipping it into the wide areas. So it's not like we've tried something radical and been caught out. I think you can just see that obviously Rangers started with two strikers, Danilo and Dessers, and you can see that they're all sort of ready to press. And from this position here, unless Smith takes it across his back foot and Iredale drops a little bit. There's no really other options apart from going long. You can see Triantis is sort of behind Danilo here. Alassane Mane's the same on the other side behind Dessers, and obviously you've got Czerny in the middle. But yeah, if you go into the next clip, it's, the ball gets rolled back, it gets hit forward. You can see Rangers pressing aggressively there. Czerny just in the middle between the two midfielders, so it's always going to go long. But where Rocky played the ball, he actually dropped out to the side, like maybe anticipating getting the ball back or maybe looking to play out. But that was obviously not blaming him at all, but it was that fatal decision, because if he had maybe sprinted out there, there's a chance you may have caught Dessers offside. But because he drops to maybe offer another passing option for Smith when the ball goes long here into, I think it's going towards Chris Cadden. It's a really poor kick out from Smith. You can see like that's where Raskin makes the contact. So, I mean, it's not gone very wide at all. And you're right, from that position there, you can see, Iredale on the other side there, just at the top of the box. And if Rocky's in line with him, Dessers is offside. But of course, we know that Rocky, moved to the side, then started to come out. So obviously the header goes straight through. And to be fair to Dessers, it's a smart finish, because, we do recover quite quickly, and he sort of chests it, turns and, puts it into the bottom corner. But you're right, it sucked the atmosphere out, a wee bit. But also, I think I thought we had a really shaky spell after that, where we weren't really getting our foot on the ball. They were turning the ball over a lot, and Rangers really sort of took the game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of prime example of conceding so early and in that manner. It can kind of disorientate you a wee bit. And as you said, it kind of took Hibs. It took them a while to work themselves into the game after that, I felt.
Yeah, it did that. We'll go into a little bit of the shape and stuff like that after we discuss Hibs' equalizer. But I think that rocked them a bit. And then of course you're then thinking, right, we maybe don't want to get the ball down as much. Let's just go a bit more direct. We turned the ball over a lot, and Rangers started to really sort of sniff blood, really. But yeah, it took us a wee while, and I actually think our goal came at a really, really good time, because I think without that, I probably could have seen Rangers maybe grabbing another one. But yeah, this obviously there's a lot of build up to the Hibs goal, but it started in midfield. Triantis pops it into Mane, and it's just a loose pass, like a slack pass in. He's trying to find Bowie. We've got Hoylett down on the other side, and I thought Mane grew into the game in the second half. I thought tail end of the first and certainly into the second, but I thought the first 15-20 minutes he was really struggling. And a little bit that was what Rangers did, which we'll talk about. But yeah, if you go into the next clip, he turns the ball over. We can see you've got Hoylett down there, so we are sort of a man down at this moment in time. Raskin drives forward with the ball, and Triantis goes to close him down. But to be fair, he sort of rides that challenge quite comfortably. If you go into the next clip, he pops it into Diamande, and he just makes that run into that space. And because Rangers were playing with a front two, plus they had Czerny and a sort of number 10 free role able to run behind, I thought it was really tough for the back three, because they just, they were having to deal with Danilo, Dessers, potentially Czerny, and then if you get a deep midfield runner, you're really struggling. So he pops it into Diamande, and he makes that run. If you go into the next clip, it's like a beautifully weighted ball in behind, to be fair. There's not much margin for error there. Raskin on side. When it goes through, Smith actually makes a really good save. He comes out quite high. He's off his line. It bobbles through, and then obviously this is where the controversy potentially starts. Everybody's probably seen the clips. When it goes into that position, obviously the clip that you see, it looks like the ball's crossed the line. But we've seen before, if you've ever seen, I think Sky Sports did a segment, was it the Arsenal-Newcastle game, where the ball looked out and they did a little bit of work and showed the camera angles and the different perspectives and things like that. From the naked eye, it looked like it was a goal, no goal line technology. I did think if it did go to VAR, I thought Raskin fouled Rocky, to be fair, because you can see as Raskin's running in, he's just kind of looking at Rocky and just basically shoves him really off the ball into the net. And then obviously Rocky does well to quickly organise his feet and get clear, and then obviously Smith gets back in to smother it. But it obviously created a fair bit of controversy. Nobody was really sure. Yeah, if you see it from here, but it does post a wider conversation about goal line technology and things like that, because if you're gonna, we probably should have it. We should that even Hibs with VAR decisions recently, with cameras only being in certain positions in the stadium and lines going through players and things like that. It makes a mockery of it. I think if you're going to have it, you need to just go all in and invest in all of it,
exactly,
rather than have it how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather we had goal line technology than just general VAR, to be honest with you. I mean, you can see that it's certainly from there. It certainly looks like it crosses the line. I mean, I know sometimes it can almost be like an optical illusion. I know the examples and stuff that you've used from Sky Sports, so that it's impossible to say absolutely definitively unless you've got the goal line technology there. Obviously, you can see why Rangers were feeling a bit aggrieved about it. You can see the referees are pretty good. I mean, is there any chance that Smith's blocking his view at all there? I'm not sure that he is. Linesman's up with play. It's one of those. Unless you've got the technology, then I suppose you can't 100% confirm it. But it certainly looked like it. But I mean, if you're going to get away with one, then you're
well.
I mean, as you say, a good point about the foul as well. I think maybe Rocky and Raskin were kind of both at it at a certain point, but he does that kind of crucial moment. He does sort of just kind of shove him off.
I think so.
That would have been checked as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think if it went back to that, there is that, because it does knock Rocky off balance. He's about to probably clear it there, and he gets shoved off balance, and he has to sort of like swing a leg out rather than what he would normally do. So, I mean, listen, if this is us in the other end, you're fuming, and it's that wider thing with VAR and the officials is that the linesman might go, that's across the line, or I think it is, but actually I'll not flag, because if it is, VAR will pick it up, and then it can be done. And I think there's that wider problem with the decisions being made and things like that around it. So, and obviously Nick Walsh had one in the previous game with a handball, and he was under a lot of controversy for that. So again, he's maybe thinking there's no way I'm giving that without, so it's just a myriad of things kind of summing it up. But overall, like, we've been done on a couple that I think this season with VAR decisions, even in the St Mirren game, there was a couple that when I looked at the lines and thought, that'll get caught, and it didn't. And it's so difficult. But we really need to invest in the technology and make sure it's up to speed.
Yeah, I think that is the wider point, is that you can't really be having things happen like this where you're left to debate over, not the clearest of images. It does, as you say, I think the right phrase is, it does make a wee bit of a mockery of things. But from there, it was.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I said, once it's happened, we played. There's a lot of a bit of confusion in the stadium, and then we went on the counter attack, and you can see there, like, Nicky Cadden, picks up the ball. He's driving forward, and we've got that front three. Got Hoylett on the left. Boyle's actually in the middle here, and Kieran Bowie's kind of on the right-hand side. And you can see there's a bit of a gap between sort of Rangers left back and the centre half that's developed between where the Bowie's in just now. If you go into the next clip, it's, Nicky Cadden carries it a long distance, and it's a really well-weighted ball. Again, I thought Boyle was maybe just offside just when it was played, but you can see maybe Tavernier just playing him on. And again, I think that goes a little bit down to Hoylett's movement. Hoylett sort of pulled him out into that wide area to create that space in behind, which I thought was really, really good. And again, you can see Souttar's kind of unaware. Proper at that point, obviously stops to try and play the offside. And if you actually go into the next clip, you can see both... you've got Souttar and Proper both hands up trying to play for the offside. And I do think psychologically there is that, like, this is going to be offside, and maybe not concentrating in those moments. And, Bowie does really well here. He's obviously sprinting in, but he sort of just slows down just a little bit, waiting on to see what Boyle does, because obviously he takes a touch. And if you go into the next clip, you can see he just makes his movement towards the ball as Boyle gets his foot round it. So it's a great run, because it would be easy for him just to keep running in a straight line and Boyle to pull it back. But he sort of slows down, and then he pounces and makes his movement towards the left. You can see defensively for Rangers, it's really poor. There's nobody near him at all. And it's a brilliant finish. He just sweeps it, through Butland's legs, uses the pace of Martin Boyle's cut back, and Yeah, fantastic finish.
It's the run, the movement's really good. I thought, as you just say there, it would be easy just to run, as you say, run in a straight line, try and get maybe into the back post, which maybe potentially makes it easier for the defender, because then it makes his mind up. Well, I need to cover that area, but he's kind of in that sort of area there where the centre half is like, well, do I drop in and try and cut the ball across? Well, cut out the potential ball across, or do I just stick with him and he potentially gets away from me? It's good movement, and it kind of, I think, kind of speaks to what could potentially still to come from Bowie, because that's kind of real sort of striker's instinct there, a real finisher's bit of play, I think.
Yeah, and I mean he's called up to the Scotland squad, didn't he? Today, so he's got, he needs to be managed carefully with his injury, and I think we've done that since he's come back, and he's maybe been frustrated maybe with the lack of minutes he's got, but you can see he's getting fitter and fitter every game. I thought out of possession he was actually pretty decent against Rangers. It was a tough shift, but you can just see the difference between him and Kurevich in those positions. When Bowie gets in there, there's a real sort of decisiveness of what he's about to do, how he's going to strike it, what foot he's going to use, where he's going to put the ball. Whereas for Miko, it's maybe not as natural. And this goes to saying about a bit of consistency maybe with the front line, and what we'll be able to look forward to next season is obviously him and Boyle maybe making those connections as well. Boyle knowing, actually, when I'm in this position, I need to pull it back, because Kieran will be running onto this rather than running into the 6-yard box. So yeah, maybe a nice wee flash into the future for us there with those two playing together.
Absolutely. So you wanted to have a look a bit about how Rangers shaped up, and then how Hibs tried to manage that.
I just thought it was worth pointing out, because it was Rangers, they had sort of obviously suited and proper after Balogun went off, and Tavernier and Casemiro as their sort of fullbacks, but they almost played like wing backs. They were so high and taking up both the Caddens. Barron sat deepest, and then obviously had Diamonde, Raskin playing quite wide for 8s and 10s, but then that left Czerny, Danilo and Dessers. So there was quite a lot of players to cover, and I think that early goal kind of shook us a little bit in terms of our play. And you can see there, like just in this build-up here, that we're kind of leaving the centre-halves on the ball, but you can see Diamande's looking for the ball there. Nobody's close enough to Barron in the middle because of his positioning. Hoylett's been pulled across towards Tavernier as well. If you go into the next clip, Suter just kind of pops it inside. You can see there's Barron's able to kind of split the two strikers. And if you go into the next clip after that, he's able to play in this position here. He sort of sucks in Bowie, who's chasing him back. And then you can just see how many runners they've got there. Danilo drops in to try and get on the ball. He's just left O'Hora. And then you can see Czerny's kind of on the move, looking to run in behind that space to Rocky. And then you've got Dessers on the other side behind Iredale. And you can't see it obviously because of the clip here, but you've got Tavernier across on the right-hand side, and Casemiro on the left-hand side is there. So it really meant, because they had so many attacking, but I mean, they were essentially just leaving Suter and Proper and Barron at the back, and even then Barron was quite further forward. So it was such an attacking setup from Rangers, and I think we got to grips with it in terms of what we wanted them to do. But I think in the early parts of the game, we were just kind of a bit caught out, and I certainly thought for Triantis and Mane, who haven't played together at all really, they were just getting pulled all over the place, and I think that kind of contributed for it being quite a tough start for Mane in that game.
Yeah, it becomes a tough shift then, doesn't it? Is this just a continuation of...
Yeah, I mean, the ball, we get across the other side there, and you can see we've got a little bit of a better shape there in terms of you can see the back sort of five. I've kind of linked the back five together. Mane and Triantis, and then obviously you've got Hoylett, Bowie, but look how deep everybody is. Chris Cadden's just sort of tucked in off screen there, but again, it's really well read by Iredale, and we've said that it's a real strength of his and O'Hora in terms of stepping out and nicking the ball. But again, if Barron puts a bit of disguise on that ball, Dessers is playing on the shoulder there, and you can see Chris Cadden's kind of pulling out towards Tavernier. Mane's kind of stuck in the middle, not really knowing where to go, and there was just a lot of that in the opening sort of first half, where just because Rangers had so many players willing to run in behind, we found it quite difficult to get to grips with.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we pinched the ball back here, as you can see, the this is when Diamandi brings down Triantis, but quite often that was all that they had in behind. And you know, I take most people in a race against Proper and Suter, to be fair. So, you know, that was a great foul from Diamandi, because I think Triantis is probably about to release that, and you'd have Boyle racing through. So there was space in behind, and I've just highlighted, like, that's where Tavernier is. You can see, like, just under the Hibs part of the scoreline, and that, look at the distance between him and Suter at that point. So Rangers were certainly going for it, and it did mean there was lots of space in behind, but we had to work really, really hard out of possession to get opportunities like this.
Yeah, I mean, would you like to have seen that exploited a wee bit more, to be honest?
Yeah, I thought so. I think, you know, if you move on to the next clip, I think we ended up, I think, to be fair, for Bowie and for Boyle and for Hoylett, which we'll see here, they were having to do a hell of a lot of work. So in this example here, Raskan actually plays it into Czerny, but it's Hoylett that cuts it out in this moment here. So to win the ball back and then counter, it is very, very difficult, because as you can see, there's look how deep we are. It's a hot day as well, so it was obviously going to be very tricky, but yeah, there was certainly lots of space to go in. So yeah, if you move this clip on, again, this is another bit of the build up, and you can just see, like, we're actually not in a bad position, but this time Diamandi's dropped deep. It's actually Bowie on the right hand side, and Raskan just takes up that little position in there to get on the ball. If you move into the next clip, we eventually get back into shape, but that's Bowie running back into that area, which him, Hoylett and Boyle all had to do, especially in the first half, just because of how many bodies Rangers were throwing forward. If you go into the next clip, again, where we kind of settled was, right, we can't keep running like that all the time. So if the ball does go wide, we're happy for it to go wide. And even though this is quite dangerous in terms of, we know Tavernier's ability to cross, you know, you have to give up something. And I think we just thought, right, we'll give up the wide areas, keep everything tight central, because we know we can turn it over, and we'll just deal with anything that comes into the box. Which I think was not a bad way to settle into the game, because we couldn't do that much running around. And
you would back that back three to deal with a lot of that, wouldn't you? I think.
Exactly, that's what they're comfortable doing. You know, Dessers and Danilo have got good, more so Dessers than Danilo. He drops off a lot, but you know, you would trust them in those positions. You know, we said that when they played Celtic a few weeks ago, that we let Celtic kind of have the ball wide. Now, they punished us in behind, but we know that those clip balls over the top and in behind are really tough to do. But if you're giving up something, that's probably a good thing to give up and try and defend. And I've got an example later on off that. But yeah, again, here you can see the ball goes wide. It's Chris Cannon going out, and you can see he's pointing for somebody to cover, because he knows that if nobody covers that, there's going to be Czerny, there's going to be Danilo, there's going to be runs, maybe Raskan running off, but it's actually Boyle that sprints back and almost fills in his spot, kind of at right wing back. That's when the ball gets switched out. So lots of hard work. So it probably meant that those counter-attack opportunities we weren't able to do them as much because of the work out of possession. But yeah, if you go into the last couple of clips, this is sort of where we ended up. You see around the 40th minute with and look at that, that's like our whole 10 there basically. And what they're looking for is Czerny, who's actually about to make the run off Rocky. Now, Barron's got quality. Of course, you don't want to give him too much time, but you're probably more willing to deal with those clipped balls over the top where they're hard to get right. If O'Hora goes and clears that heads out, we know that then we've got 3v2 going down the other end. So it was all about, after that initial sort of crazy phase at the beginning of the game, it was just getting settled back into that 5-2-3 shape, which we've trusted for a while, knowing that Hoylett and Boyle had to do a lot of work out of possession, give up the wide areas, and just make sure Rangers didn't go through us, because when they did, they looked really dangerous.
Yeah, they did. To be fair, it was, as you said, I was quite surprised as well at kind of how bold they were. Really kind of shackles off type stuff. And as you say, but you've kind of explained there why Hibs maybe weren't able to quite exploit how gung ho they were being, and then obviously it gets towards the end of the first half, and the second Rangers goal obviously doesn't arrive until after half time, but it was signposted, I think, with this. in first half stoppage time.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I've watched it quite a lot, and there's not a lot to it, to be honest. Like, they set up the way they are, and there you can see Casanuero's on Smith. We've got a bit of zonal marking with Triantis at the front there. Raskin's kind of in the middle. Suter's being picked up. Danilo's being picked up, and then there's some propers being marked at the back post. So you can see like Raskin sort of is telling Cherny just wait. And then if you go into the next clip, he just makes a very small movement, nothing major, in between Triantis. And if you go into that next clip, he like, for a small guy, the leap he gets on, I mean, that's him over Triantis. And I think Chris Cadden at that front post, not small players by any means, and he gets a really good flick on it, and it just goes over the bar. And that was obviously, you can see, like, just into stoppage time in the first half, and it gave them the blueprint, because that's exactly how they got the goal at the start of the second. But this time, you can see it a little bit better here from the angle. So you've got Triantis and Chris Cadden, I think, zonally marking, same with O'Hora, and I think Bowie at the back post as well. And then, again, Casanuero's free, just mark on Smith. There's nobody in there with him. You can see Rocky's picking up, Nicky Cadden's picking up, and Iredale's picking up. Now, Chris Cadden, I think, is looking at Danilo just on his left shoulder. He's just beside Raskin. And now this time Boyle is back beside Raskin, marking him. So if you go into the next clip, again, not a lot really happens in terms of movement. Danilo runs forward to maybe, I think, to pull Chris Cadden out from that front post.
Yeah.
And you can see there's another couple of bits of movement at the back post, but Raskin just, again, moves forward. And then if you go into the next clip, it's very similar to that first half. That's him making the connection there. That's Boyle jumping, Triantis jumping, and he just gets the jump on them both. And it's a really, really good header. Just glances past Smith in there. So I know David Gray, I know he doesn't like losing any goals. I think that goal would have really frustrated him, because I'm sure at halftime they probably would have spoke about the chance that just happened before the half. They've maybe tried to correct it with Boyle going in there. But, the quality of delivery, to be fair, from Cherny in the first half and Tavernier there, they're very good balls in the box. They fall right between the two zonal players, and that can be one of the downsides if you zonal mark, that players get the run on you, and it's hard to defend, and it's a great header.
Yeah, and I suppose it's an example, like, I know this is not so much from a Hibs perspective, but just as an added point, like, I think we've come to expect really, complicated and intricate set piece routines these days. But I think that's probably there. It's just the value of a simple, good delivery and a clever bit of movement and a glancing headed finish, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think even though people know Raskin's sort of aerial threat, that he is somebody that you probably maybe don't give too much attention to. You certainly wouldn't put Rocky on him, for example, in those situations. So he doesn't probably command one of your main like ball winners. So it's that thing of, going forward. I would imagine if we were to play them again and he was to be at Rangers, we're set up, I would imagine you would maybe say, right, this time we're actually, maybe stick somebody on him, not Martin Boyle, potentially somebody else that can go and challenge it. But yeah, he just exploits that little bit of weakness that can happen when you zonally mark.
Yeah, absolutely. So it takes us on further into the second half. As we were talking about earlier on, you just had quite a few chances throughout the second half. What were we looking at here?
Yeah, I mean, they did. They had a lot of chances. Both teams started, I think, around about the 50th minute, started to make subs. We brought Campbell, Mariah Welsh and Gale on. Lawrence came on for them as well. So, yeah, here it's actually like, just pretty much like, our goal kind of was a counter-attack after a Rangers chance. It's the same again, really. They have a chance here, a brilliant chance with Cherny attacking. You've got Dessers and Danilo moving off. And you can see we're pretty exposed here. It's the back three. It's a 3v3 essentially. But Cherny tries to slide it through. It's a good bit of defending from Rocky.
I remember this now.
He sort of falls on the ball, and it may or may not clip his elbow. However, what I would say is that when it does hit the kind of underside of his arm, it actually helps Cherny to a certain extent, because the ball then rolls forward for him to then nearly get on the second ball, and Rocky just sort of swings a leg at it just to pinch it back. Now again, you can see Nick Walsh is in a brilliant position to see it. So and obviously the handball, I mean, nobody's clear on it at all at the moment. So I'm not really sure what the rules are about it. It obviously would have been checked before we go up the other end, but yeah, that's the position we're in. If you go into the next clip, you can see the ball basically rebounds away, and Cherny gets onto it, and Rocky, like here, just swings a toe and gets the ball clear. It's just very, very subtle to get the ball, but I think you can see Raskan claiming for the handball on that side, but we play on. And then Iredale wins it. If you go into the next clip, plays it out into Josh Campbell, who's come on. And if you move it forward, like we spoke about Josh Campbell recently, and what I liked about this goal, if you watch it back, is he drives forward, and we're actually in a good bit of counter-attack, and then he slows down and he stops and he sort of pauses here. And I think it's a really good bit of play because it brings Tavernier out to press. It gives Triantis time to get forward. It also gives Nicky Cadden time to get forward. And what he does here is he waits until Tavernier gets close. And then if you go into the next clip, he pops it to Triantis, and you can see Nicky Cadden making the overlap there. And then if you go into the next clip, it's too big a gap for Barron to get across. And then obviously in this position here, it's all down to Nicky Cadden at this point. It's an unbelievable delivery, but good bit of movement. Gale, goes across to kind of typical striker movement. He goes across towards the front post. Boyle's constantly been peeling off towards the back and behind Proper. And it's that when you watch the cross again, it's ridiculous because if you see it, it's hard to clip it and give it justice, but the ball, it swerves so much that Butland actually comes out and then realizes the ball swerving away from him and steps back. And that just gives, and it's the same with Proper as well, in terms of tracking it in the air. And that just gives Boyle it gives him the run, and it's a brilliant header as well. But yeah, it's just like that moment here. I know that looks like a bit of calamity goalkeeping, but actually he comes out thinking I'm going to get it, and then it just pulls away from him, and then he obviously starts to step back. But at this point, Boyle's got the jump on him and is able just to guide it past him. But just that, like, a ridiculous delivery.
Yeah, it's such a weapon to have that, isn't it? It's silly stuff. The other one was the not so much a cross, but the crossfield pass for Boyle's volley. Boyle. That would have been, you'd have been, taking back Iredale's goal of the season award there, unfortunately. And
that was from so deep as well. I mean, that was inside. I'm sure that was just inside his own half. And and like I say, he's obviously, as that as Patrick likes to talk, we talk about the pre-assist. He gets a wee pre-assist for the goal as well when he drives forward and slides in Boyle. I mean, his way to pass and everything he does is so good. And you're right, that position there, there's still so much to do there, but this is it. When he plays, strikers know if I move into these areas, he will find me and I'll be able to get on the end of things. So again, I'm looking forward to him having he's had quite a disrupted season as well, when he joined and not being quite fit, and then obviously getting the facial injury and then coming back slowly from that as well. So it'll be good. It's exciting to think about him with a full pre-season under his belt and going into this new season.
Yeah, exactly. And just before, taking it back to this one here, I think it must be a complete nightmare to defend against that, because I think what's kind of especially impressive about it at times is he really doesn't need much space at all to be able to dig that out and deliver it. He's got two guys trying to close him down there. He's, the ball is, it's not as if that's right out his feet. He's able to dig it out from those positions as well. And obviously if you give him the space, he will get it out his feet and deliver. But it's just so hard to defend against, I think, the way, as I say, he doesn't need, you give him an inch and he's able to produce a cross like that.
Yeah, I mean, the best example is probably the derby, and the ball for Gale. The ball gets out to him, and everybody knows how dangerous he is, but you just can't get out there. And that's the advantage of, we go back to like the team being, some of its parts, where to get Nicky Cadden into these positions, you need your Josh Campbells and your Hoylets to play more central, so that keeps the opposition defenders closer in, so that when the ball does get to Nicky, he's got time to deliver it. But like you say, even if you're just a few yards away, he just uses you to whip the ball around you. Do you know what I mean? So even if you get out to him, it's almost like you're doing him a favour because he just goes, perfect, I'll just use you and I'll whip it round. And it must be horrendous to try and defend against. But as you said, for us, it's such a great weapon. And even if you don't get a goal from it, 9 times out of 10, the defenders are, because of the pace of the ball, they are not taking any chances. That's just getting, volleyed behind for a corner or volleyed away, and we keep possession of the ball, So yeah, excited to see what he'll be doing next season with a pre-season behind him.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a cheat code, that. So just to round us off, what a moment! It would have been a great moment. If Boyle just. I think he's been in such good form. I thought as soon as he gets away, you're thinking goal. But it just on this occasion wasn't to be, was it?
No. I mean, the game, like we said at the top of the show, Rangers had big chances. Smith made some unbelievable saves, and we had to defend. Even when Czerny and Raskin went off, I sort of thought, oh, that's maybe giving us something to go, and it's maybe how we got this attack with Rangers maybe being a wee bit more open with Cortez and Rice on and stuff like that. But we were. I think we're at that point. We were going. We'll get one more chance. We'll get one more chance against them, and this was it. And it's a loose pass. It's a really good first time ball from Mariah Welsh into that space, and Gale, does so well because it's like he just takes a touch, turns and swivels and hits it first time, and you can see Rice pauses, I think, for just to maybe play offside, but you've got one Rangers defender just in behind, and as the ball goes through, so the shadow is where he is. I wondered if with that first touch he'd maybe want to go across and take that first and then maybe potentially get a foul, get something out of it, but he's moving at such pace there that and we've seen him score from the angle he gets into. And if you just go into that next clip, it's this touch here. He's obviously thinking, I'll get one more to set myself and then take it on. And I would fancy him in that position, even with his left foot. I think maybe going through Butland or under his legs, I think that's maybe where he was looking to go. But he just takes that heavy touch that runs straight into Butland. And what a moment. That would have just been a perfect end to the season to go in. And then I think I clipped him. Just that's how I felt as well, because we were just thinking what a moment that would have been. But it was as I said, the game. I thought the game had everything. It had the controversy. It was loads of attacking. It was end to end stuff either side. Some really good goals in it as well, and some big moments, and pretty much summed up what's been quite a bonkers season.
Yeah, he's going to be thinking about that one for a while, Boyle, isn't he?
I think so.
He needs to sit on 99 goals for a couple of months now. Because of that. As you said, it would have been perfect end to the season. So just a word, for that, how can you put into words these last few months? How can you sum up the season just before we finish up?
I mean, it's from where we were. I mean, it's been said and said again. I thought he was a goner. Great David Gray after the Dundee game. We just continually shot ourselves in the foot with red cards, and he couldn't quite get the personnel right, and we got injuries, and we were even talking about people like Ekpiteta, who in the midst of everything going wrong actually was starting to get into a rhythm and looking solid, and then got injured in training, and we had all these players coming back who had maybe signed injured or hadn't had much fitness, and it's just crazy to think that we then stumbled on that. We stumbled on that for me, like that 3 at the back against Dundee United, and it looked good. And then we never played it for a few games. We picked up a few draws, and then personnel issues meant that he went with it again against Aberdeen. And obviously, we always talk about it, but that Gale assist and Rocky goal just sort of changed the fortunes of both teams, really. And I think that's where David Gray and the coaching team and the players deserve a lot of credit, because again in January we only really added Manny really as a sign-in, and even then he's barely, he came on, got sent off, and then never really played until that last game. And it's the same group of players that have got him through it, and it's not the same 11. It's Mariah Welsh came in and had a key role to play for a little while. Josh Campbell was out, then was in, and then kind of found himself back out again when Hoylett came in. Bowie was in and then Kurevich came back. Levitt came out from nowhere to start playing in midfield again. It's only really been this, and then Smith as well. It's only really been the back sort of five that have kind of stuck consistently. So I think the credit there for what he built and how we were able to push and achieve what we've achieved is just amazing. So a lot to do in the summer. Players. It's been great that we've held on to Boyle and hopefully do the same with Rocky, I think, as well. I think that consistency would be good, but there's still quite a lot of positions to add quality into with players leaving, loan spells ending, things like that. So a lot to do in the summer. And obviously, if we've seen with Hearts and other teams competing in Europe for a Scottish club like us, it's hard because that Thursday, Sunday is grueling and relentless, and you need a big squad to be able to cope with it and players that are able to come in and perform in the league as well as away in Europe. So it's a big summer, but an exciting one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well summed up there. As you say, a big summer to come over these next few months. And just, I think the overriding feeling is going to be excitement as to what's now possible next season with European football on the horizon as well. But for now, we're going to leave it there. So this is our final tactical analysis video of the season. Thanks to everybody who's joined us for these videos every Monday. We've had I've certainly had a good time putting them together. I hope Craig feels the same. It kind of earned, I think Craig has earned this run of results over the last few months, because I think a lot of last season and in the first half of this season, we were dragging him in here on a Monday to review stuff that I could tell was, in retrospect, was just making him miserable having to watch it back. So a big thanks to Craig for suffering through that. He's got his rewards now. Hibs are officially a very good side again. And I hope you've all kind of enjoyed watching his analysis. I know we really appreciate it. It's been great to have you on this season. And obviously we'll be back once things kick off again, which it's never too far away. Before you know it, we'll be into pre-season. We'll have new signings to analyse, all sorts. So very much looking forward to that. Again, folks, thanks for joining us all throughout the season. Probably kind of later this week, we're probably going to try and do a sort of fuller season retrospective, just reviewing everything from start to finish. That could take us several hours. We might have to split that one up into a few episodes. There's been so much to go over this season. But as I said, thanks again for joining us. Thank you, Craig, for all your efforts and analysis this season. We'll speak to you again soon, folks. Enjoy the rest of your week.